And we're live with the episode of Paranormal Dash Spirits. So, I'm Michael Black, or Mike Black. My wife, Alyssa Black. My best friend, John Burkett. And this is the place where we come to get our booze on and talk about booze, B-O-O-S, and do it with our favorite booze. So, let's start off with our B-O-O-Z-E. And what do we have tonight?
This
Take it away, John.
is a big heavy bottle of Centanario Plata. This is tequila. An unaged, regular old, straight out still tequila. And this is a rather large, cool Art Deco looking bottle.
That looks like it's like a building from the 1930s.
It does. It does. There's this cool angel on there.
It's the size of a building from the 1930s.
It looks like
size is that?
It's as big as the Chrysler building here.
What is that, a 1.75?
That's a 1.75, yeah.
Yeah. I thought I was going to go with gallon, but I knew that it would be metric since it was.
It'll be going into a smaller bottle when it gets home.
You get to funnel it in there?
Yeah.
What's the price point on this?
A regular size bottle is $26.
Okay.
This was, I think, $53.
Regular being a 750?
$7.50, yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So
I'm going to take it off of here because it is really big.
John's going to have to Hulk out to pick it up.
Yeah.
Okay. And I assume this is one that you have out breathing for us?
It's been breathing for a while, yeah.
Okay. So we're ready to go. All right. So 1 tequila, 2 tequila, 3 tequila.
More.
Floor.
Smells like tequila.
Okay. So I get the agave, and I get a little ethanol
Yeah.
with that. I mean, I can smell the alcohol in it.
Well, it's not aged at all. There's no flavorings added to that, so it's you're going to get some ethanol.
So it's roasted agave, but
I just want to try it.
I see decent legs. Do what? You just want
I
to
just want to try it. It smells pretty good, though.
It does. But like I say, there's a little bit of that ethanol to it. Like, okay.
It's
on
good.
the tongue. What do we say? Cilantro?
Cilantro.
Slancha.
I like.
Yeah. It's a little...
Tastes like ethanol. Not
Harsh.
ethanol. Tastes like agave and spiders and scorpions.
I feel like I have a cut in my mouth because something stung. Like an unknown cut.
So,
If you really did have a cut in your mouth, you would know it from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
So-
saw my lip. I'm pretty sure.
so we've had more than one tequila on here, and we have tried lots of different tequilas. This is, I will be honest,
It's warming me up, though.
you know where I'm going with this. This is not my favorite tequila. I'm not a huge fan of Platas as a rule. Now, last week we had Don Julio Blanco. That was a very good
Really
Plata.
good. But
That's
it also
a-
costs twice as much.
twice
as
as much, right? Now, this is good enough that I could see no problem throwing this in a mixer, in a like a margarita or a vampirito, something like that. Tequila sunrise, for As a sipper, I would not.
It's more of a shooter, but it's a good shooter.
It is a good shooter. It beats
As I sip it.
it beats the hell out of Jose Cuervo. I will say
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Everything does, I feel.
Well, that's true. Except
Maybe not Montezuma
I was gonna say
or
Montezuma.
Two Fingers. Or
Yeah. So
Man,
neither
Two
one
Fingers,
of those.
that was the jam when I was in college because we could afford it.
I know, and that's the only reason it
Got
was
a cool
the
bottle,
jam.
isn't it? Like black.
No, I just saw it tonight. It looks plastic, actually.
Cool.
Comes in a plastic
Awesome.
bottle.
Probably has a screw top, actually. I think it does.
It does.
I think it has a screw top.
Hey, a screw top does not necessarily mean that something's bad at all.
Truth.
true.
I've had some good wines that are screw tops.
And a cork sure doesn't mean that something's good.
That has a cork.
That's true.
This has a cork.
That does have a cork.
Thank you for pointing that out. So cork does not mean good. So John, you're down with that as a shooter
Yeah.
or a mixer.
He doesn't do cocktails.
Yeah, I don't really mix. Yeah.
No mixing.
Whenever
I know
you
where you're
make
going.
those cocktails, margaritas, vampiritas, you add a bunch of sugary things to it.
Right.
And
Well, you-
that's just a bad day for me the next morning. I don't.
And well, I don't get blitzed on cocktails typically.
Ooh, that's a bad idea.
Yeah, and it's and if I do, it's typically like a martini. Then it's basically just pure vodka anyway. But except for some olives in there. But I could see that in a mixer. But then again, I wouldn't drink a bunch of it if I did. So I'm not going to get killed by the sugar. And so I could see it as a mixer, but not as a sipper. And if you just wanted to shoot tequila, that wouldn't be a bad one to do. I mean, and certainly we always drink them neat. We don't drink, the salt and lime. But I mean, that wouldn't really require salt and lime. For this
No,
one.
it's not.
No,
It's
not.
got some smoothness to it to me that's not super harsh
It is.
as I keep drinking it like this.
Right. For me, it's got that on the back of my tongue, on the sides, whatever that spot
That's
is.
that scorpion's tail going back and
Yeah,
forth.
it's going tat, 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 and zapping me in my tongue. Actually, there's not a lot of harshness to it. It's just I'm not a fan of the flavor for this one. But there's my can't win them all. I mean,
No. I like it.
cilantro
Gets the job done. And to me, it tastes good. I like a little spicier tequila.
Yes, it is spicy. As in scorpion sting spicy.
I truly don't get a lot of stings out of it. I think it's
It
is really smooth.
It is.
You're used to a lot of the, these reposados and these fancy añejos and
I am. That's fair. That's
some things that have that has some artificial flavorings probably added in there.
yeah, it's a fair assessment. I'm not. I like my reposado. I love my añejos. So fair assessment. So we've talked about the BOOZE tonight with our, what was that again? Centanario. Okay, Centanario.
I'd put the bottle up here, but it's just
Massive.
It takes over the whole show.
It really does.
That is a big bottle. All right, so what are you bringing us tonight, John?
Tonight, I thought we would talk about a place called Portlock, Alaska.
So we're talking about Bigfoots.
Probably.
Or Bigfoot or feet. Is it big feet or Bigfoots?
I use the same word for the plural.
So Bigfoot,
Bigfoot.
like deer.
Like deer,
Okay.
right? Nobody says deers.
Moose.
No, well, I don't.
Moose,
Moose, yeah.
Mooses.
which is another
Or
thing
moose.
that you might find in Portlock, Alaska, is a moose.
Right. So and for those of you that don't know, John is our resident Bigfoot expert.
I don't know about expert.
Well,
Enthusiast.
you're our
Enthusiast,
resident
there you
expert
are.
because you know more about Bigfoot than Alyssa and I do.
And
put
I've
together.
never seen one.
I know, that's so sad. I
It
want you to
is
see
sad.
one. I really do.
I
want you
really,
to see
really
one.
want to see one. I might regret that once,
You very well may.
as some of these people in Portlock, Alaska, did not live to regret it.
Okay, so tell us about Portlock, Alaska.
So Portlock is an abandoned ghost town. It sits in Port Chatham Bay, which is on the Kenai Peninsula. It's on the southern tip of the Kenai Peninsula in southern Alaska.
Okay, I was going to ask, where is Kenai?
The Kenai is in southwest Alaska. It's where Homer, Alaska, is probably the only actual city there. Portlock is named after British Navy Captain Nathanial Portlock, who landed there in 1787. He didn't stick around, but the name stuck. The Aleut, I don't know if I'm saying this right. Forgive me. If
I think it's Aleut.
Some of these native names.
Aleut.
Aleutian. Aleutian
Yeah,
Islands.
Aleut.
Okay. They inhabited the area for centuries, off and on. It's known for its abundant salmon runs, and also there's a lot of mineral resources: gold, chromium, copper. A cannery was established there around 1900 to take advantage of the fisheries there. Also, there were mining operations. There was a chromium mine, and a U.S. post office was established in 1921.
So it officially became a town in 1921, or a city, I guess a town.
It was a town before, but the U.S. post office didn't open until 21.
Okay.
The strange stuff started happening in 1905. That year, there is a record that all the native workers of the cannery left early that season because of something in the woods that was bothering the camp.
You're throwing up air quotes when you say bothering.
I am throwing up air quotes.
What is bothering?
There's not a lot of detail to this report. It's over 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
But something made them leave early. They all left. Nobody stuck around in the off season, but they did come back.
Okay.
But the weird stuff happening continued. In the 1920s, a man by, we don't have a specific date. It just, records are sketchy. In Alaska 100 years ago.
Right.
In the 1920s, a man by the name of Albert Petka supposedly scared off a hairy creature, doing air quotes again, with his dogs, but not before receiving a fatal blow to the chest from the creature. He lived long enough to explain to everyone what happened, but then shortly thereafter he died from his wounds. Around the same time, there were reports of prospectors, gold prospectors, and hunters going missing. It became so frequent that it became commonplace. Sometimes bodies were allegedly found in creeks with limbs torn apart, shredded like chicken tinga, which is not something a bear can do. Mm-hmm. In 1931, a logger named Andrew Kamluk, that's Kamlu, Kamluk, see how I don't know how to pronounce these words, was working when someone or something hit him over the head with a huge piece of logging equipment. None of the reports specify what it was, but apparently it's something too big for a man to lift by himself. Also not a lot of details on that report, but in the 1930s, a group of men who were hunting a moose reported seeing large tracks of something bipedal that was also stalking the same moose that they were stalking. Then they came upon a scene, basically a bloody battle with torn branches, blood and hair everywhere, and supposedly 18-inch footprints leading away from the site of the battle up into the Foggy Mountains. No more moose, though. Something carried the moose away. There was a man named Tom Larson who went to chop wood for fish traps. I have no idea how that works or what fish traps look like. But he saw something large and hairy on the beach, so he ran back to his house to get a rifle. He came back. He saw it. It was a bipedal creature standing up and staring at him. They had a brief staring contest, and then he retreated, but he never explained to anyone why he didn't fire on it. Other villagers spoke of a woman in a long black dress with a pale face who would appear from the cliff sides. She'd moan and scream and then disappear back into the cliffs. Not Bigfoot related, but
I'm about to say.
Other weird paranormal stuff going on there too.
Did the
Bigfoot's wearing a dress.
Bigfoot's not wearing a dress.
Or did he take her away? Is that what we're trying to say?
So eventually they would recover bodies that had washed down into the lagoon at the bottom of the creek. They had strange wounds that bears couldn't make. The loss of lives eventually took a toll on the community, and fear set in. People started to leave. With all these unexplained disappearances and murders, no one felt like they could take a chance to live there anymore. Everyone took off en masse in 1949. That's when they'd had enough. They abandoned their houses, the chromium mine, the cannery, the school, the church, and they all left to nearby Port Graham and Nanwalak. Hope I'm saying that right.
Lots of locks.
Lots of locks. Only the postmaster remained. He stuck around for another year by himself, and after a year alone, he'd had enough, and he closed the post office in 1950, and that was the end of Portlock, Alaska. Over the years, people have gone back. In 1968, a goat hunter reported being chased by a creature while hunting in the area. In 1973, 3 hunters took shelter in Portlock during a storm and reported that every night something walking on 2 legs just walked in circles around their tent all night. In 1990, a paramedic in Anchorage was called to treat a 70-year-old native man and former Portlock resident who had suffered a heart attack. And while treating him, they got to talking about hunting in the area, and he said that he'd recently been hunting in the Port Chatham area. The man jumps up, grabs him by the shirt, and says, "Did you see it? Did it bother you?"
Okay.
So do we assume that
the old guy had seen it?
Him?
Huh?
Do we assume that the old guy saw him, and that's why he was asking?
Yeah, that would be the assumption. Everyone who had lived there knew about Nantinaq, which is what Nantinaq is what the natives, what the Aleut people called it.
Gotcha.
It means half man, half beast. It's very literal.
Did you say a goat hunter?
Yeah, there's goats like doll sheep, mountain goats,
Okay.
stuff like that.
I'm thinking the nice
Not
little
goat.
farm goats.
No. This is goats with the big curly horns.
Then I started thinking the longer we talked about it that
Yeah,
you probably
yeah.
meant a mountain goat.
Yeah, it's mountain goats. It's a beautiful place. But something's not right in those woods.
No.
So in 2018, a man named Stephen Major and his group Extreme Expeditions Northwest, they were the first Bigfoot research team to spend some time there. And they spent a few days on the ground. Days, because they spent nights on the ship in the bay. They wouldn't spend the night there.
Oh.
They'd have Zodiac bring them in the morning. They'd wait till the sun started to go down, have the Zodiac take them back to the ship, but they wouldn't stay overnight. They caught some interesting stuff. They had a lot of FLIR hits of a lot of tree peeking. People would see something that catch a glimpse of something peeking around trees, footprints, wood knocks, the usual Bigfoot type activity.
Right.
It's pretty interesting. They made a documentary film out of it. You can watch it for free on YouTube. It's called In Search of the Port Chatham Hairy Man. And it's actually pretty good.
Okay.
That brings us to 2022, when the History Channel releases a new reality series with the very salacious title of Alaskan Killer Bigfoot.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yeah. So the premise is there are a few guys who are descendants of people from Portlock. Their families used to live there, and they want to see if they can reclaim the area, go back, reopen the fisheries, and somehow they got the History Channel to
Fund it?
fund it, yeah, and produce it and film it with a film crew. It's interesting, it's fun, it's entertaining, but it's really hard to take serious. There's a lot of I know you're looking.
I know where you're going with this.
It has a
Does this remind you of one of those ghost hunting shows, maybe on the
it
Travel
has
Channel?
a Bagansy feel to it.
There we are. He's an adjective now.
Yeah, it's
Vacancy.
Bagansian in its nature. Lots of dun 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 music, a lot of heavy editing, a lot of what was that? What was that? What was that?
Right.
Very staged almost.
It doesn't have
Seems-
Aaron going, bro, but yeah, it's very somewhat scripted.
Yeah.
Like the first night they're there, they have a problem with their tent. There's sort of a pin that's some sort of linchpin in the tent that they're putting up, so they can't put up their tent, and it's snowing, and there's more snow coming in.
Okay, wait a second. I just want to say, I've been in the woods a few times, and you always forget something, right?
True.
Okay.
Oh no, I'm not saying that was staged. I mean, that's totally plausible.
No, I'm not saying that was either. What I'm saying is, if it's a linchpin, is all that's keeping me from getting in my tent, I take some 550 cord and I run it through there. I tie a knot in it.
Yeah, nobody seemed to think of that.
I take a stick and I run it through there to hold it in place.
They did fix the tent the next day.
Oh, okay.
But they did their bear guard.
A what?
A bear guard.
What is a bear guard?
Someone the armed person who stands watch for bears.
Yeah, okay. So
or Bigfoot.
Okay, so you've got an armed person.
One armed person. Not that he only has one arm.
So he played in The Fugitive.
No.
Oh, okay.
For some reason, when Discovery Channel or History, whatever, goes out there, there's only one person with guns.
Oh, so there's a singular guard then.
Singular guard.
Okay.
With one gun.
No, he has two. He has some sort of, it's a Ruger American bolt action. I'm not sure what caliber, and he's carrying a Colt Delta Elite 10 millimeter, but he's the only guy with guns.
So these are guys that are, and I'm totally walking all over your story now.
No, that's fine. No.
Because I'm thinking, I've been to the woods before, and even in East Texas, or Arkansas or Oklahoma, and I'm in the woods, and I'm going to camp. I'm going to stay out there for a while. I'm going to have some kind of firearm with me. And whether I've got a bunch of buddies or not, and if it's a bunch of buddies of mine, we're probably all going to have fire. We're all going to have fire.
It's interesting that the 2018 expedition at the In Search of Port, most everyone in that group was armed.
But in this one, the one-armed guy with the single bolt action, and that would be hard. That would be difficult if you had one arm to work a bolt.
It would be quite difficult.
But one singular. A bear guard. When you said bear guard, I swear to God, I was picturing in my mind are these some kind of spike contraption that you set up around the
That would be a really good idea, though,
to keep the bear away,
or at least something to let you know something's coming to camp.
Right?
Yeah.
But
some sort of tripwire or something.
Something. When he said bear guard, I swear to God, I thought.
Well, you have laser things that when something breaks the beam, it alerts.
Absolutely.
I've seen plenty of people use that.
A string with some tin cans tied to it will work,
Yeah.
But okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, anyway, so he goes. There are a couple of buildings that are still standing, even 70 years later.
Oh wow.
There's one cabin that's still standing, and so they put some tarps up around that cabin, and that's where they spend their first night. And they're awakened in the night by the sound of footsteps in the snow, and some banging on the walls, and they're all freaking out. But bear in mind, though, there is an entire History Channel production crew there, multiple cameramen, a producer. But these are the only guys inside the cabin.
Well, of course.
Where are the History Channel people?
Well, they're not afraid of the Portlock AK men, I guess.
I guess not, because there's a camera guy in the woods filming through the woods to the cabin. So if something was messing with the cabin, why didn't he catch it on his camera, and why didn't it eat him?
Right.
Because he's alone
out there
in the woods.
Well, he's probably not alone. He's the cameraman. He's got a sound man, and then you have the gaffer, whatever the gaffer is, because you always see that in the movies. You got the gaffer.
Right.
So
I have no idea what a gaffer is.
I don't know what a gaffer is.
I know they have tape.
Gaffing, they do?
Gaffing tape.
Yeah,
which is duct tape. But
okay. So maybe
I've heard Zach Baggins mention how the camera got ripped off the wall, even though it was held up with gaffing tape.
Duct tape. Well, by God, if he said it, then it must be so.
There's a lot of.
So you know what it was? It was a production crew, and they go, "Hey, I got an idea."
How do we know that it wasn't the production crew?
Let's go screw with them. We'll walk around and we'll stomp in the snow. And
so nothing was caught at all.
Well,
on camera, I mean, from this cameraman.
No, not in that incident. No.
Okay.
They had a thermal drone.
Okay.
And there is thermal footage of something bipedal. So it's either a large beast or a large production assistant walking through the woods at a fast clip towards him and then disappearing.
Is he walking ape-like? Like, they show
It's taking long strides, whatever it is.
Okay.
So take for what you will. I'd give it about 50% of the stuff they caught being real. A lot of it could have been done in post. And there's a lot of stuff with the village elders, which I assume is actually just the Discovery Channel producers. Because if the village is really struggling, how do they afford to keep sending helicopters and seaplanes out here constantly to bring new people to assist in the investigation?
So they're bringing more people out.
Oh, they bring
into
a
the investigation.
psychic. The psychic tells them, and they look skeptical. Like the Bear Guard guy showed up there not believing in any of it, and you could tell half the time he's looking at like WTF, right?
Yeah.
But the psychic tells him that she gets nauseous and ill around negative entities.
I know somebody else that does that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But we're not hunting for paranormal things. We're hunting for Bigfoot.
Allegedly, so you have to look at the Aleut people. They're very religious, and in kind of two religious worlds. They are Russian Orthodox.
Okay.
But they also have their native beliefs, and in their native beliefs, this is not just a primate. This is some sort of spiritual being. They call it demon of the forest type situation. Could be a Pazuzu of the forest, if you will.
Oh, he said the P
Oh my
word.
God, John said the P word. Again.
I got it in there. But yeah, they get the normal stuff, the whoops.
So did she get nauseous then?
Yeah, she got nauseous and demanded to be taken away, and the helicopter took her away.
Oh. Okay.
The second psychic was a little more brave. Ron Moorhead, they send him out there. He's pretty
Moorhead. Why do I know that name?
The Sierra Sounds in 1971. He's pretty famous in the Bigfoot world. He recorded the.
Is that the one where they're at the top of the mountain
in California?
Or in California, somewhere that nobody knows where they are.
Right.
And during the middle of the night, they got so scared that they pulled the tree bark over the hollowed out tree, and they're hiding in it. And these things are making this proto-human language.
Right.
And
so
go ahead. I'm sorry.
They fly that guy out there to help out. He brings one of those Fox Pro systems, those speakers. Hunters use them to hunt predators. They blast out sounds of injured animals and stuff.
Right.
And he sets that up on the beach, and they blast out, known Bigfoot recording sounds off into the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And they get replies, but I can't say that those are replies that couldn't have been put in post. Because the reactions are like, did you hear that?
Yeah.
But I would say the most irritating part of the show is every time they're in the woods and something interesting starts happening, there's crashing and sticks being broken, and something is there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if you've ever watched Finding Bigfoot, Bobo and the gang, they run towards it. These guys, one of them says, guys, we got to get out of here. Zoinks. Take off like Shaggy and Scooby. Every time.
You did this the Shaggy and Scooby sound effect very well.
That's very irritating to me. Stick around. If it's why are you running away like that?
Right.
I mean, there's a guy with a rifle right there and a 10 millimeter. He'll be,
So, yeah. I mean, the whole point of going out there is to capture, not necessarily capture Bigfoot, but capture evidence that Bigfoot exists, right?
Right. Now, they set out with a stated goal of, if Nathanial is still there, is it something we can make peace with so that he'll allow us to come back?
This name you've just used is what the natives' name for it?
It means that's in the Aleutic language. It means half man, half beast.
Okay.
So they're going to go make peace with it.
Man, they
So my neighbor who speaks English, and I speak English, and I drive across the easement in front of his yard, and I booger it up with my truck. Okay, and I put ruts in his yard. I go over, dude, I'm sorry, and I make peace with him. I'll pay for the landscaper to come out, the yard guy to come out and fill it in, put new grass and everything, right? How do I go out into the woods and make peace with this bipedal hairy.
Not even sure that this is even existing creature.
Oh, I'm pretty sure there's something in those woods.
Well, I don't
But I mean,
doubt that at all.
Right, but I'm just saying it's not like a very known, like, people have had contact speaking, right? I mean, or there is. I mean,
Well, the Native American view of Bigfoot is somewhat different than ours.
right.
But they take Russian Orthodox religious icons out there with them. They do find a monolith, which that was a very interesting thing. Is a standing
Like
stone,
Stonehenge or something?
about 5 foot high, clearly hand carved,
Okay.
carved by man monolith up there on one of the cliffs overlooking the bay.
Mm-hmm.
And they put a compass next to it, and the compass is spinning. So there's some sort of magnetic field coming off of that thing.
Yeah.
That was really odd and weird. And one of the guys puts one of his Russian Orthodox icons. I'm not even sure what those are. They're pictures of saints, and hangs it on the thing. Who the non-Russian Orthodox guy later on finds it on fire
Oh.
in the woods.
Yeah. Did you see my eye roll? Because
Yeah.
I totally eye rolled on that.
Yeah.
It caught on fire by itself. Maybe
Spontaneous combustion of some sort.
nano. How do you say the name again?
Nantinaq.
Maybe Nantinaq set it on fire.
Nantinaq. That's
Maybe
kinda
Nantinaq
fun.
had a big.
Maybe he
Nantinaq.
did.
I mean, I'm not trying to make fun. It's really History Channel's fault for the production to make it as dramatic
Yeah. Well, I
as
mean,
ghost adventure-y as possible.
It sounds like it was very hokey.
it sells.
It's hokey. It's entertaining.
It sells subscriptions.
If you want if you want to find out more and see a more serious expedition, go to YouTube and watch In Search of the Port Chatham Bay Man.
Right.
There's no hokiness in it. And bear safety is taken much more seriously.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's really scary there. Are the bears there?
Well, yeah. Well, you got. So you have.
That's something that you know for 100% is there and will eat you.
So do they have polar bears that far south in Alaska? Or
No, but they have taken DNA from some of the bears on Kodiak Island, and they're part polar bear.
Oh, really?
They're brown bear polar bear hybrid.
Wow.
That's why they're so big.
So because there's an old saying: if it's black, fight back. If it's brown, lay down. If it's white, good night.
Oh yeah.
Because if it's a little black bears, people they think black bear and they think, oh my God, it's a black bear. Black bears are kind of tiny.
That's
actually.
a 300-pound bear. I
Yeah,
mean, he can still mess you up good.
Yes, absolutely, but they're not that big.
They're not aggressive really, unless they're really hungry or
Right.
you mess with their cubs.
Right.
They're going to run away.
But a brown bear, a grizzly, and that's a different story. Those things are huge. And
They'll
they'll
eat
eat you.
And a polar bear will hunt you down.
Yeah, that's
for
the thing.
days.
Yeah, it will hunt you.
But that's the scariest thing to me there. I can't say Nantinaq is 100% there, but what is there is bears. And they find plenty of bear sign. Enough that you should have more than one guy with a gun.
Yeah, I wouldn't have felt comfortable with that.
Yeah, and they also carried better guns on the in the 2018 expedition, carrying 12 gauges loaded with slugs.
So they
44
did not
Magnums.
find the Bigfoot then.
Not really. I mean, there was enough evidence. I mean, the howls, the wood knocks, the footprints.
But no.
Everybody's seen enough stuff to say that it's there.
Okay, with a show of hands, who believes that Bigfoot is real? Mike does. Mike's hands up. John's hands up. Alyssa's hand is up or not?
It's restricted, but it's up.
Okay. So I believe that it is. I don't know what it is, and I mean I have my guesses, but
I don't believe in all this supernatural being stuff
right.
with Bigfoot. I think it's just a some sort of relic hominid.
I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of Giganopithecus.
That is evolved, of course, because
Right. It's not exactly the same, but so I have a few questions. Was that it on that one? Because if it is, I've got some questions.
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. So the guy, so you're going to have to help me out with the story. The guy chased the Nathanial off.
His dogs.
Well, his dogs chased him off, but not before this thing
Punched him in the
chest, and then the dogs chased him off, and then they found him, but he later died from injuries.
Right.
So here's me playing devil's advocate to this one. Is the guy, let's say he gets punched in the chest by a bear slaps him or something.
This is true. Some of these things could have been bear.
It totally could have been a bear slapped him in the chest. Or let's say the guy fell and the bear pounced on him with all his weight. You're talking grizzly's 800 pounds. Well, the 800 pounds on your chest. And so it did cause damage enough to kill him eventually. But he could have been anoxic, or coming onto anoxic at some point when he's telling the story, and it gets confused between a grizzly bear pouncing on his chest, and because I've seen the bears do that, where they bounce like that.
But bear in mind, these people know what grizzly bears look like.
Right, but a person who's
they've been living with them for centuries.
I understand, but a person who's anoxic is not seeing the world through straight eyes. Because you start seeing things, you'll hallucinate. So maybe he was hallucinating, and that's just the one. Another question I had was they said that the footprint was 18 inches long. Now, isn't that I don't know a lot about Bigfoots, but from what I've read, that's even 18 inches is gigantic even for a Bigfoot, right?
No, that's a pretty normal size.
Is it really?
Adult male Bigfoot.
I was thinking they were smaller than that.
Females.
Oh, okay.
And adolescents, but 16 to 18 inches is generally what most people say. That's what most of the casts that have been taken, and they assume that's adult males, full-grown adult males.
Okay. And so just to be clear, this community, town, whatever, it became a town. It only lasted 28 years. Because it lasted from 21 to 49. So 28 years.
The cannery was actually opened around 1900.
Okay. So we can add a little bit to that, but
1921 is when it had a post office.
Okay, so in my mind, if it's got a post office, it's a town now.
Correct.
Yeah.
According to the U.S. Postal Service.
Yeah, because they put
you can get mail.
The government puts their stamp of approval on it. This is a town. We can send mail here now. Because I know until then, they can be a community or incorporated, but they're not a town until they have that post
zip
office.
code.
Right. So it became a town, and it only lasted 28 years. That's a very short time.
Well, but if you go back as long as the cannery and the community was there, it's closer to 50
you're only
years.
looking at 50 years.
Yeah.
Because because in 49 was when the last person left except for the postman.
Right.
And they started in 1901. So you're looking at 49, 50 years max.
Yeah, about 50 years.
Lasted. Wow. And these are another thing that I think should be pointed out for Portlock is that if you're up in Alaska, these are hardy, self-sufficient people who they're not scared by things that go bump in the night.
Well,
a bear or something like that, except for this thing.
The History Channel people are.
Okay. As a rule,
those were Native Alaskans too. They had it. I believe a lot of it was hammed up for the cameras.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was.
So there's no one there right now.
No one lives there now.
It's just a ghost town.
It's a ghost town.
Okay.
There's really nothing there. There's a couple of dilapidated buildings. There are some pieces of the cannery, steaming tanks and stuff like that laying around, but it's pretty much been reclaimed by nature at this point. That was another thing. The elder of the village told him, "Don't go in the woods. That's no man's land. That belongs to Nathaniel. Well, it's been 70 years since someone was there. The woods have come and moved a lot closer to the beach.
I was going to say the woods have probably grown over the
They have
city.
no choice. They have to go through the woods to go to the town or to see anything. You have to go through the woods. So,
Yeah.
But I mean, there's an interesting scene where they find some scat that they all say is not bear, and
Right.
and the guy had seen something up on the hillside. But there's also a camera shot from a camera looking down from the cliff at him, looking up there. So was it the cameraman? I don't know.
So this is another thing that I wanted to point out is that I've heard people and read about Bigfoot where some of the naysayers for Bigfoot is like, well, you know, a bear, his footprints can look like that of a Sasquatch. And I'm like,
They don't.
I don't know what kind of bear you've been looking at, but those two prints are nothing alike.
No, they don't look anything alike.
No. Okay. So I wanted to put that out in case somebody does come across that and they're reading or listening. You know, well,
A Sasquatch print looks kind of like a human print, but with flat feet, with flat arches, and a flex in the middle. They also have the dermal ridges.
Right.
A bear print looks like a bear's
Right.
claw. You know?
Yeah, they're way different.
And they're not that big either. If I saw 18-inch bear tracks, I'm getting the hell out of there.
That's a big bear.
So Nantinaq is still there. We've never seen Nantinaq.
Lots and lots of residents have reported seeing him.
But
Or the people that
the
live there. They're getting
History
older
Channel.
now, though. Yeah, but
The researchers haven't. History Channel, all of this. That's what
well,
this
these
video.
guys. I mean, the guys with Extreme Expeditions. They saw lots of them. The camera guys who stayed with the group, and you knew who they were. Right, they were right there. There wasn't any this weird acting for the cameras going on.
Yeah.
A lot of people kept seeing things. There's something right there peeking behind that tree. I just saw
Right,
it.
the
And then they're
peeking
all
stuff.
standing there with the FLIR scouts looking. And they did capture something on FLIR.
Mm-hmm.
But you could see moving through
Right.
that did not look like a bear.
But the Alaskan killer Bigfoot was actually not.
Nobody got killed.
Okay, well, I guess that's a plus, right?
Despite the guy with the guns leaving at one point for a family emergency.
Oh gosh,
And
and
they
didn't
were-
leave the
so they were
guns.
left-
Just took the
They
guns
were
with
left
him.
They
unarmed.
were left unarmed.
Oh my goodness!
Oh my God.
It's kind of amazing that bears didn't eat the entire film crew. You know, I'm sure that History Channel cameramen taste delicious to a bear. You know,
Well, I'm sure.
So here's the question: would you go to Portlock?
I would do what the first expedition did. I would go there during the daylight. I would not spend the night there.
You go back to the ship.
I would go back to the ship.
I honestly, okay, so if I were to go to Portlock, I would go during the day with an armed crew with me,
Yeah.
and I would not spend the night there.
No.
And and Bigfoot or Harry Portlock man, whatever his
That's bear safety is what that is.
bears alone, I would not go there and
Well,
spend the night.
The extreme, the 2018 when they went in September.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a bear expert, but that's when they're starting to really feed and bulk up for the winter
Right.
hibernation. That's not a good time to be there at night.
No,
You're going to
would
end
not
up
do
like
it.
Grizzly Man dragged out of your tent and eaten alive.
That's a pass for me.
Oh,
Yeah. Oddly enough, the Bigfoot doesn't scare me near as much as the bears.
right. So that's another thing. It makes me think about all the stories that I've heard about Bigfoot. And like I say, I'm not a Bigfoot expert like you, but everything that I've read, everything that I've seen, Bigfoot is this, and I'm using air quotes, shy, or just you are inconsequential to me because you're you're not big as a minute compared to me, and I'm not really concerned with you. So I might see you over there and I just turn and walk away. I don't run. I don't have to.
I think they're like people. Some people are shy and Some people are aggressive and nasty.
So is this one like the psychotically aggressive?
I don't think it's one. For
Right.
one thing. It's clearly what do you call a group of people? A pod?
Yeah.
A herd?
A
I don't
clan,
know.
a tribe.
A family.
Yeah.
It could
Well,
be a family group. Yeah.
Very well could be a family.
That's a
you
very,
know?
this group is very territorial and aggressive.
And
A vicious family.
considering the environment that they're living in, being aggressive and territorial probably would be a necessity for them. For anything living in the harshness of the north like that,
Well, you're competing with grizzlies.
you're competing with the grizzlies, yeah, for sure.
But I've always heard that the Alaskan ones are much more aggressive.
Really?
Yeah. You think of your normal, your Washington State, Oregon, California ones,
Right.
not so much. The ones here in the South, smaller, but aggressive and nasty.
Really?
And the ones
That's
in
what we call, is it called swamp apes? I've heard them called.
skunk apes,
Skunk apes.
skunk ape, wood booger, whatever. Yeah. But
I thought that's what you get when you flick your nose at a tree or something.
but the Alaska ones are supposed to be bigger, even bigger than your Washington State ones. Closer to 10, 12 feet instead of
Okay, so if they're
8 feet.
competing with bears, and bears are carnivores, then one would think that
they're
they...
omnivores, I would think. The Bigfoots are, and bears are omnivores as well.
Well, yeah,
by the
that's
way.
true,
They're both
technically, yeah.
omnivores. No self-respecting grizzly is going to pass up an elderberry patch. He's going to eat.
Right. Oh, so Portlock.
Portlock. I wouldn't spend the night, but I would definitely go during the day, well armed, and then get me out of there before the sun goes down.
Right. All right, Alyssa, what do you got for us tonight?
A very short story
Okay.
about a seance.
A seance.
But that's all it says. Is that
Okay.
there was a seance.
Uh-oh.
Yep. It says this is apparently this person when they were kids. In a tent at night, we conjured up somebody's dead uncle. I think they said, and then they said some weird shit happened. We asked him to give us a sign that he was there, and the flashlight, one of those big old green ones with the big, huge 6-volt battery, went out instantly. It was sitting in the middle of us, pointed up, with nobody near it. It went pitch dark, and we hauled ass to the house. I don't think the light ever came back on. That was the story.
Wow. Okay.
Battery died?
So, okay.
I don't know.
Here's what I'm going to tell you. And that particular story right there, I know the guy that wrote that and sent that in personally. I know this guy very well. And one of the boys that were in the tent that night and conducting this seance, I have a story in there from him as well. And I'm trying to talk him into doing an interview with us and actually coming here, and we've actually talked about it, him coming here and setting in on the podcast. And I told him that I would blur out his face and change his voice.
Okay,
and all
yeah,
that.
you told me.
Yeah, I told you about this. Very serious. This guy has been plagued by that thing that sounds like nothing there, but when you hear the rest of the story, Paul Harvey, I guess,
whatever the story starts with, there was a seance.
Yeah, there was a Ouija board.
There was a Ouija
Yeah.
board.
Right.
Well, like I said,
we
it
offered
was
up, we offered up a
it was
young
very
virgin.
short, and I'm sure that something else happened. But for just that story, I mean, I've had a flashlight story, and I think that a lot of people it's like a tester. You set a flashlight out there and tell it to turn it on or turn it off, and then it turns on or off.
Actually, you take the little mag lights with the twisty tops, and you put it right before it would come on. And you ask them, if you're here, you know, can you make that light come on? And I've seen some stuff. Some people have pretty good results with that, too. Some pretty amazing, intelligent responses.
There are, and I've done that. I know I've watched it. You've seen it happen.
Yes, I have, and it's absolutely terrifying for a flashlight to come on with
kind of
no one around it. And it wasn't like the twisty tie. It was the kind you had to push the button.
So I can play devil's advocate, and I can say, well, you know, it could be that you're out there at night, it's cooler, the humidity's high, and there's just enough humidity for the electricity to jump across that contact with the battery, and, you know, just enough moisture in there to make that happen.
Wait, was it on and went off, or off and went on?
In the story, or my personal experience? In the story, it was sitting in the middle of us, pointed up, nobody went near it. It went pitch black. It turned out. It went out instantly.
Literally, the battery could have died.
Yeah, the battery died. And I will say...
But then it said the light never came back on.
Yeah, and like I say, that doesn't seem scary in and of itself, but
there's more to that story later.
Yeah, I know the rest of that story, and the rest of that story spans... the rest of that story would span probably 30 plus years.
Oh, wow.
And that's one person and being basically tormented by that thing that turned the light off.
I will say from my flashlight experience, we set it on a rock and told it, if you're here, turn the flashlight on. And we had turned it off, and it was it had the button on the back.
Mm-hmm. It's like typical mag light. We get a little button and you unscrew it. And
that sucker flashed on, off, on, off, on, off. I believe I screamed. And then I was told to be quiet because then it stopped. And then I walked up to it and I tried it. And it was off, and I flipped it back on, and I flipped it back off, and then I stepped back, and there it goes again. On, off, on, off. And I'm like, I'm out. I don't like this. This is awful. This is so scary.
See, that doesn't seem like a scary interaction to me.
I mean it just because for me, that was my first interaction of truly ever seeing something.
That was the first time she'd ever been to someplace that was truly haunted and with lots of spirits at it. And
that's an adrenaline rush. The flashlight thing
for me, absolutely, 100%.
For sure.
But being there and in that environment, the first time she'd ever been to anything like that, so she's like, you know, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. Do it again, you know. So, and in that particular instance, it was being responsive to questions, you know, and they will just sit there and flicker, you know.
Yeah.
But this one was like,
yeah, you were asking questions, yes and no.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Yeah.
Apparently, I shut part of that off because it scared me.
I've got an EVP that I'll share at some point throughout the show when we do, you know, like evidence caught or, you know, on some of the YouTube videos that we do. By the way, check out our YouTube channel at Paranormal Spirits. But I've got an EVPs and I've got actual knockings where you can hear. You know,
from that location.
Yeah, it's like at one point I'm like, can you make a sound?
Was it Knox?
Yeah.
Was it a Bigfoot?
No, it wasn't a Bigfoot.
Not at Camp Ford here in Tyler.
No. Not next to the Whataburger, no.
Yeah, no.
Not the knock. That was in the psych hospital.
Right, I'm just saying where the flashlight was.
Yeah, but
you have EVPs from there too that we talked about.
And it was like, you know, I said, can you make a noise? And you hear this little tap. And I said, well, can you make it louder? It's like, bam. It hit really hard. And I was like, oh, well, that's louder. You know, but during all of that, I caught an EVP as well. And it sounded like a kid's voice, which was really strange because I'd never caught what sounded like a kid's voice before, you know. And I thought that was kind of strange.
Interesting you bring up EVPs. I forgot to mention this.
Mm-hmm. So we got EVPs at Portlock.
They got an EVP, yeah.
Of the Portlock Carryman.
It's a raspy, growling kind of like saying that they weren't trying to capture EVPs. They were going back and listening to audio. And they didn't hear it at the time. It's a pretty creepy sound. Of course, this could have all been done in post, but they were listening to it there on the beach, so I don't think so.
Right.
It's a pretty creepy sound that they didn't hear, but it's loud. But the audio recording is loud.
So they got a bonus out of it. They got
a bonus out of it, yeah.
They got an EVP.
Yeah, I mean, do you think about it? There's 30 some odd people over the course of that, when the cannery was open, that disappeared, shredded to bits.
30-something people.
Yeah, the story is there's about 30 people that either went missing, just went off in the woods to hunt, and never came back.
So that's
or the bodies that were found, or the people whose names were actually mentioned in reports of dying.
So we're looking at over either a 50-year span or...
I think this through in the 30s and 40s, probably a 20-year span is what there was. You had about 30 people.
Wow. That's quite a bit.
So there's bound to be some paranormal activity left over just from being torn to bits by a Bigfoot.
So what was the population of Portlock?
I'm not sure.
I can't imagine that it would have been much.
I heard that the school had 100 school children there at one point.
Well, that's
a pretty good sized population. This is a major cannery operation.
So you're thinking if it has a population, if the ratio is the same as down here, if you got 1,000 people, you're going to have 60-something, kids in the graduating class or something like that.
There were 31 residents as of 1940 in the U.S. Census.
That's the last census.
Yeah.
And that's what it still shows today. If you go look it up on Wikipedia, it shows current population of 31, but there's nobody that lives there.
This says total population is 30,621.
Where?
Oh, wait, that's Portlock, Hawaii.
Okay. I was about to say, no, I don't even think Anchorage has that many people living in.
I was going to say, there's a little bit of difference there.
Yeah, you're right. It says 31, and it has never been reported any differently.
Yeah, no census taker's been back out there to...
It was dissolved as a CDP by the 1990 census and has not been reported again, or a census-designated place. That's a CDP. So, a.k.a. ghost town, ain't nobody there.
Right.
Nobody's there.
So we've done Portlock. We've done our one little quick story from somebody sending one in. And like I say, I promise to do the rest of that story. And I've got that story that I can relay, but I want to do it as an interview style because it's so interesting. And like I say, it spans a time of 30 plus years. And it's actually terrifying.
Why do people don't do seances?
Don't do Ouija boards.
Don't play with Ouija boards.
I don't know.
I do have to say, on your Alaska thing, according to this, how many people are there? Alaska, which happens to be the third least populated state, has 1,218 missing persons cases currently open.
Yeah.
By far and away, the rate of missing people, 41 in 100,000 residents, is nearly 3 times as high as in any other state.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so...
Eaten by the Bigfoots.
Or bears, or they went off in the woods and they froze to death.
They froze to death. They fell down some crevasse somewhere.
Broke a leg and...
Eaten by a polar bear. Are there polar bears there? No?
In northern Alaska, Alaska, for sure.
Yeah, this is Alaska as a whole, so...
Yeah, so it...
I mean, I'm not saying they're all missing because of Bigfoot. I'm just saying when you have the 3 times as high as any other state, and I mean,
what was that movie with? What was the movie about the fourth kind or something like that? About the dude. They were up there, and it was a psychologist who was working with these people who were having these visitations from aliens, and it's a great movie.
In Alaska.
Yeah.
There's a whole UFO thing with Alaska, too.
There's a movie. There's a movie, though, and it was the chick from... Oh, my God, what was it? God, I can't think of the name. The one with Umbrella Corporation.
With Mila Jovovich.
Yeah, Jovovich or whatever. So, and you never saw that one?
Mm-mm.
Oh, man, it's great. She plays a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a therapist or something like that, and she's talking to these people, and she's doing regression and trying to figure out why they're having these night terror type things and these horrible nightmares and stuff like that, and they figure out that it actually was terrifying. I went to go see it at the theater, and it was like, man, and they play it, and what they did, the one effect I thought was really cool was they played the movie right here, right, and they split the screen, so you have the movie here, and then you have this black and white grainy footage over here, and they're playing them side by side, and they're moving them in and out, and things like that. Well, come to find out, it was all fake, and the grainy footage was just made up too, but it made it seem like it was the real deal.
I haven't seen that.
Somebody can think of the name.
What are you talking about? The Fourth Kind?
The Fourth Kind, yeah.
2009.
Yeah, great movie. If if you're into abduction stuff.
Yeah, Alaska's a scary place. There's actually an Alaska Triangle.
This is Alaska Triangle.
Just
16,000 people have gone missing in the Alaskan Triangle since 1988, including airline passengers, hikers, locals, and tourists.
Yeah. I don't doubt it.
Bet a lot of tourists.
I don't doubt it at all.
And people have been attacked by bears more because a lot of hippie types that don't understand the culture and the necessity of hiking with firearms have been moving up there, and they think that banging a bell and saying hey bear is going to save you. There have been increased reports of people being attacked by grizzlies who were unable to defend themselves, but there's a lot of weird paranormal stuff that goes on up there.
I think we should do an episode just on Alaska.
It's a fascinating place, beautiful yet terrifying place. When you look at that,
and we can look at everything. Then we can look at the ghost stories from Alaska, from the old mining towns.
Otterman, which is another Bigfoot type creature from a different native tribe.
I've heard of.
They call Otterman, but
I can give you some fun stats, like how 20,000 residents have left over the last 5 years. There are more people leaving Alaska than they're coming.
Well, would you want to live there? It's
no.
cold.
I mean, I hear it's beautiful, though.
Yeah,
it is beautiful. You see those landscapes.
They're amazing.
It's also terrifying thinking how vast.
Yeah.
That, and it's unexplored. I mean,
there's. But I don't want to go when it's just
of acres
dark.
of unexplored.
I want to go when there's actual daylight.
Yeah.
Because that's when the really cool pictures are. You know, because I mean, it's like, what, 6 months of no light, no sunlight?
Yeah, I think so. Something like that.
That's why half these people are missing. They're off of themselves.
I tell you what, every summer here, I want to move to Alaska.
Well, that's true. You know, but that's a real thing, though. The depression. That's
it is for sure.
Like,
I'm not trying to make light of that. I mean, no sun. They need some vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you got all the vampires up there in the north. You saw 30 Days of Night.
I know, right? Movie
How many movies are? I mean, truly. Okay, here we are.
And we've gone down that rabbit hole. Okay, so we've talked about Portlock. We've talked about actual stories from seances and the way that works into another story that we're gonna do. I think we should do Alaska, though. I think we should do a whole episode on just Alaska and everything about Alaska: the Bigfoot, the Otterman, the UFOs, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Sound good?
Yeah.
All right, cool. And what did we have to drink tonight? What was that?
Centanario Plata. I had to go back and look.
No.
Centanario Plata.
I still like it.
You like it, and John likes it, so
they have a Reposado. And you could buy the gigantic bottle of the Reposado.
Is it the same type bottle?
I'm sure I could.
Same bottle, just darker liquid?
Same bottle, just darker liquid, yeah.
Right. Okay. So now the time when I tell our call to action. So make sure you visit our website at paranormal-spirits.com. Check out our YouTube channel. We got all kinds of spooky good stuff on our YouTube channel, Paranormal-Spirits. We've got an Instagram channel out there. We've got a Twitter. What else do we have?
We have a Twitter.
We have Twitter. You know we have Twitter.
Didn't know that. I think you have a TikTok too.
We have a TikTok
until the government shuts it down.
Until they figure out that we can't have that. But right now we have one. So check us out. We also have a Facebook group. If you haven't checked it out yet, go to it's Booze with Benefits, BOOS with Benefits. And go check us out there. Join up. It's free to join. There's no requirements. Only that you love the spooky stuff and about the paranormal, and or that you appreciate booze. BOOZE. And that's it for this show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.